Thank you, Diksha. Good afternoon, everyone. We're looking forward to an engaging discussion. My job is easy. I have to just ask the questions, and hopefully they are tough. And we had some discussions prior to the panel discussion along with the panelists, and we look forward to a good evening. So welcome. Let's hope we have an engaging panel discussion. The topic, as we know, is harnessing the power of automation for operational excellence. We all have heard about automation, but I guess we all have lived through automation, in the last couple of years. So let's hear it, from the experts here. I think the good part of the panel today is, we have experts from a variety of industries. You have somebody from a global bank, somebody from a leading Indian bank, and then we have people from, various other industries as well. So let me kick it off with, the lady in the group. So my first question is, with rapid technological advances, right, especially in artificial intelligence, smart sensors, big data analytics, robotics, right, these are all buzzwords all of us have heard. The service industry began introducing robots to perform various functions. So Jasmin, the question is, there are two parts of the question. One is, how do you see this evolution? And secondly, what do you think is the major factor impacting this change? Yeah, I think Uday just reminded me, I need to introduce the panelists, so my apologies, I missed that. So Rishikesh is the head of intelligent automation at HSBC Bank. Over to you, Rishikesh, a brief intro.
Sure. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rishikesh. Currently, I'm with HSBC Bank Technology, heading the global intelligent automation portfolio for entire markets. Before that, I've spent about 22 years in the industry doing BFSI tech for most of the US banks, as well as I was head of digital channels for South Africa, Barclays, and then been into a consultancy role in Europe and Africa, right? So last few years, I am with HSBC Bank. What excites me more is the technology and how things are changing. I know the bank started as a banker, and I know the customer used to go to bank. Now the switch is happening with the technology, right? It's always around customer. And that is the most exciting part for me. Thank you,
Rishikesh. Zubin, Senior Vice President, HDFC Bank Digital Banking.
Sure. So I have 25 years experience. Earlier, I'm a hardcore techie actually. So I'm heading the architecture department in HDFC Bank. Earlier to that, I was working as my own startups. I was running my own consulting firm. And so that's it.
Thank you, Zubin. Vaibhav, who is the founder and CEO of EasyPay.
Good evening, everyone. Vaibhav Joshi, so co-founder and CEO of EasyPay. This is my latest stint that I'm doing with a 2-decade-old friend of mine. Previous to this, I used to be a banker. I used to be the chief digital officer for Equitas Small Finance Bank. So where me and Jasmin, we worked together and we launched some interesting fintech programs and neobanks like, fixed deposits on Google Pay, Neox, if you guys have heard of it, Grow, Bank Open, so on. Previous to that, I was with Yes Bank 6 years as the country head for digital banking. So we started digital banking in the country. We proudly say that in 2014 at Yes. And today, the Yes Bank API stack is still the most popular one, especially because, PhonePe, 42% of the UPI transaction runs through that. So my team is the one that launched PhonePe, BharatPe, Freecharge, Binav, you name it, 70% of the fintechs from 2014 to 2020 was launched by me and my team. Before that, I used to do, again, 2 startups of my own. So this is probably my 3rd startup journey that I'm doing. At EasyPay, we are creating an MSME-focused neobank. And, we feel that with 70 million MSMEs in the country, there is a big market where, a one-stop shop solution is required. So that's what we are trying to create over here.
Thank you, Vaibhav. Jasmin, co-founder and CEO, LXMI. I hope I got it correct.
Okay, it's not LXMI, it's LXME, and it's pronounced as Lakshmi. And of course, I'll tell you the story as to why it is called Lakshmi, because we all know Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth. And here at Lakshmi, it's a mobile-first neobank where we are creating a neobank specifically exclusively for women, where we will have banking tech, lending tech, wealth tech, payments tech, all integrated on one platform. So that's what Lakshmi is all about. Having said that, I started my career 20 years back with HDFC Bank, moved on to Kotak Mahindra Bank, and then Equitas Bank. I was heading neobanking. So I think it's been, I've been a banker throughout, Yes, and I look forward to a very engaging and interesting conversation with all of you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jasmin. Uday, who is the CEO and co-founder of Automation Edge.
Yeah, my name is Uday Birajdar, co-founder CEO at Automation Edge. About me, started my career as in PLC, and now they call it as IoT, right? So that's kind of a R&D division, and worked with multiple global companies building their products and all, and then started my own. So I did a couple of startups, successfully exited, and then we ventured into Automation Edge. This is a software product for hyper automation, and it's been used by 3 of the top 5 banks in India, if I had to talk about some of the public sector banks additionally. And this hyper automation helping the banks in terms of automating user journeys, and really excited to be here and talk about some of the exciting questions here.
Yeah. Thanks, Uday. So, Jasmin, do I need to ask you the question again?
Yes.
I thought as much. Okay. Thank you. So, with rapid technological advances, right, especially in AI, smart sensors, big data analytics, and robotics, the service industry began introducing robots to perform various functions. So, as I was asking earlier, there are two parts of the question. Firstly, how do you see this evolution? And secondly, what's the major factor driving this change?
Okay. So I think, of course, when we talk of analytics or artificial intelligence and robotics, I think they have gone into almost all the functions that we have across BFSI. And I'll give you a short example or a story wherein a relationship manager in a bank, for example, gets on time triggers which tells him what his customers are up to, how is their account behaving, what is it that customers are doing in the accounts that he is managing in his portfolio, what is it that he should go and speak to his customers right now at this point in time. That is the level of intelligence with which the RMs manage their business portfolios. And this intelligence, we never had it. I think 10, 15 years down the line, I still remember the RMs used to go and meet the customer physically, get to know them, get all the information, and then try to make their sale. Now, backed with all the analytical data, which is provided to them at the point of sale, I think the RMs go to the customers with so much of intelligence that the entire conversation, the entire interaction, that entire customer discussion is on a very different level. Now, this is just one example, right? Whether we talk of customer experience, whether we talk of customer service, whether we talk of employee experience, we have seen that all the aspects of the business have got impacted. Now, another example that I would like to share, it's not just the customers, and the customer's life has become easy, of course. Now, while this was an RM example, the second use case that we have already seen is the kind of triggers that go to the customers, the kind of personalized offerings that are made to the customers based on the big data analytics. Like, for example, a Kotak Mahindra Bank customer. There is so much data that is available that it is possible for the bank to send out triggers to the customer that this is what you are eligible for, home loan at this rate, car loan at this rate, because the bank has so much of intelligence based on the data analytics that it can make personalized offers to these customers, right? So I think the marketing which is direct to customer marketing has definitely changed and completely got automated because of artificial intelligence and the data that the banks are able to use. The way the front-end RMs, the sales channels are also equipped with so much of intelligence that I think that entire sales approach has changed. And I think not just that, even the employee experience. This is the time wherein, of course, we all know chatbots exist for all the customers. You go to the website, you have chatbots, you get your queries resolved. But even employees, now BFSI industry is a very tightly regulated industry, I would say, and also it is an industry where rules and regulations keep on changing again and again with new guidelines coming from the regulator, and it's not possible for any employee to remember everything. Can we enable chat bots and voice bots even for an employee so that if a customer walks in, the employee can go figure out, talk to the bot and immediately answer the customer and serve him right away rather than telling the customer, okay, I will check and get back to you after 2 or 4 days. So yes, there is also a lot of improvement in terms of customer service that also we see, and I think it's continuously improving. Also for employee learning and development, that is another use case where we have seen, wherein artificial intelligence and data analytics has made a very big impact. Today, when employees perform in an organization, there's a lot of HR data. They perform a lot of activities. There is, there are a lot of learning needs that the employees have. Now, all of this, of course, all employees have their KRAs, right? Now, whatever is the requirement of the KRA, how can we use analytics and artificial intelligence to ensure that employees get on-the-job learning, real-time learning, and are able to perform best on their KRAs? So I think that's a different science altogether. So I think across various aspects of the business, we have seen that AI, data analytics, robotics have made an impact. And I'm sure with the new technologies coming in, we are definitely going to see a lot of more improvements there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jasmin. I think 2 points stood out for me. One is you covered a wide variety of use cases, so the usage is across the board. The other is the beauty of AI is you can democratize and empower the front end. I think that's the real beauty. So thank you for highlighting that. Vaibhav, your thoughts on the same topic? Do you want me to repeat the question? Okay.
I'm good. So, Dipu, I feel that, intelligent analytics and automation is an extremely important aspect that has picked up in the past few years, okay? And picking up from where, Jasmin was talking about, let me give you an example of a relationship manager of a bank. Now, and I keep on saying this whenever, I talk about bots, because it's a very classic example that I think a lot of us would have gone through. So on the 29th or the 30th of every month, I get a call from my relationship manager. And one thing that she ends up invariably saying is, sir, FD book kar do na. They have to meet targets. The relationship manager has to meet targets. Now the question is, how does my RM know that I have certain amount of money lying in my account? The best part is, this is an account where I used to be an employee, and which means in banking terms, my relationship manager cannot see the balance of my account. A bank's employee bank balance cannot be seen by the branch level people or the relationship managers and stuff. That's how it is designed, the system is designed, if you have a salary account as an employee. But then what happens is, there are triggers that have been built in, that if I'm a particular category of customer, let's say I'm a black category of customer, okay, there is platinum, black, gold, silver, so on. If I'm a black category of customer, then, there are triggers which are built in, which says that, any balance upwards of so and so, like Jasmin was saying, a trigger goes to the relationship manager, hey, this guy has excess balance, why don't you book a fixed deposit? And the employee or the relationship manager actually wants to do that because, it helps achieve her targets. Now, having said that, step number 2, I say, okay, let me book a fixed deposit, I have a lakh lying extra, why don't I book a fixed deposit? Then earlier, the idea was that, either she would get me to log into my internet banking, mobile banking and do it in a self manner, or she would get a couple of forms signed by me, okay? Now what happens is, she opens her WhatsApp, she will take my cust ID, she will do something, and through social media banking, my fixed deposit gets opened in under 20 to 25 seconds. Okay. Now that anybody, you maybe cannot do. You can do it for your own account through a WhatsApp or social media banking, but anybody, now that's the power of automation. That's the power of automation. You can go on a FB, you can carry out, transaction-specific details, activities, or you can carry out information activities. So that's the power of automation. Secondly, if I talk about intelligent analytics, which is the second aspect of your question, then let me give you some examples that I have been seeing for the past quarter in my new organization. So we were doing a small POC for lending. Okay, our MVP is getting launched around Diwali. And in between, we are doing POCs for various aspects like lending, one POC, insurance, one POC, wealth, one POC, payments, we're already there. CASA integration will happen September, and we'll do a POC first week of October and so on. So we did a POC for lending. Okay, we rolled out some 2,500 loans to a select set of MSMEs. There were 8,000 pre-approved MSMEs, out of which some 2,500 odd MSMEs availed the pre-approved loans. Out of that, some 50% have been paid back, 50% are getting serviced and so on. We said, let's run a cohort. Now, this is where intelligent analytics comes in, Dipu. That why did the remaining 5,500 MSMEs did not avail the pre-approved loan? Okay, and then we started doing a deep dive. And now what happens is generally fintechs, and I would not say this for the banks, but at least fintechs, we pick up a lot of data points, okay, when we onboard a customer. Right from scrubbing his SMS to understanding what kind of apps he has installed on his mobile phone. And we realized that, almost 100% of the users who did not avail those loans actually had a Navi app. You all know what is Navi. But Navi does not service MSME. Then why did this guy have a Navi app? Then we understood that this is the same MSME who is actually running his business through a savings account, not through a current account. मतलब GST नहीं भरता होगा, तो इसीलिए savings account से कर रहा है, which is fair. Okay, so he is a personal loan customer to somebody like a Navi. But if I was to enable, understand his requirement and enable, so we touched upon a few more data points. And then we understood that, hey, we were doing a 30 to 60K loan. His ticket requirement was 100K to 200K. And that is where we failed short of it. Now, this could not have been possible without intelligent automation. So what we started doing is now, with this cohort POC coming, successfully done, we have started building those sensors. We have put in sensors at various places, which actually helps us understand that what is that particular trigger point, where my customer or potential customer is going to avail my service or not going to avail my service. Now, I'm not even coming to the fact where I want to enable automation for information purposes or transaction purposes. So let's say we all end up giving an Amazon kind of a wow experience or a Swiggy, Zomato kind of a wow experience. Anything you want, just pick up your transaction, right, put the query and the bot responds back. Okay, there is a chargeback or something. Similarly, at a transaction level, you do the same thing. But having said that, you still need to have those data points captured. You still need to have some rules put in the algo so that these things can be triggered. So I think, to summarize it, Dipu, intelligent analytics, automation, these are extremely critical functions. And while I can touch upon, the operational aspect of it, I think my friends over here are far more, expert in the operational aspects, and they can dwell upon how it has also helped the operational part of it as well.
No, thanks, Vaibhav. I think one thing which stood out for me from the way you explained it is the fact that if you look at the various data points, apart from having a customer journey, you also need to have a data journey. That to me was a good summary of what you said. Rishi, over to you. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I think I'm good. Okay. So this is interesting, right? My talk is going to be slightly different than these two bankers talked about. So I'm going to give you more about the automation and operational side of the journey. So the point I latched onto is the evolution of the technology first. Let's talk about that. So if you look at a few decades back, right, how did manufacturing industry solve it? We used to do everything manually. Then machines started assisting us. Then the humans started letting machine do the job, but it was supervised. And then eventually unsupervised machine, right? That's how the manufacturing world worked. Just let's draw a parallel to the technology side of it. Initially, there used to be a small macros or even a calculator is an assistant to you. Then the RPAs came in. Then there's something called digital assistants that came in, right? So that's the basic journey of automation. Post that, what is happening now is with the advent of AI and the maturity of AI that's coming through. So previously, whenever you talk about RPA, people used to say, oh, you know what, that's manual and repetitive, give it to RPA, right? Where the brain is not required. But now, we are at an inflection point where the integration is happening, where the bots are becoming intelligent. And when I say bots, it's RPA bots are becoming more intelligent, and we call them digital workers, right? So the digital workers are enabled or empowered with AI technology, so they can take decisions. Then you add in the OCR technology, right? So they can read documents, interpret it, and then take action. So it's more or less end-to-end operations are covered by putting the intelligence, by reading capability, as well as doing the operations. Now, in addition to that, how it is evolving further is, can human and bot work together hand in hand? How do you do that is with the BPM technology, right? Let's say a bot does a particular function 80%, just a checker or approval is required, then human gets in and then kind of push the task forward. So that is the maturity is given. And the next bit, I'll probably elaborate a little later also, is about if the digital worker is doing everything on its own, can we create a digital manager also, right? Can we make them self-managing so that we don't have humans to take care of them, right? And I think that is where the technology is leading towards. That's where the terms like, so Gartner also said in 2022, of course, Uday has his product in that area. Hyper-automation is a strategic tool, a strategic trend that Gartner has identified. What it means is it's whatever I talked about, right? Enabling AI, RPA, BPM, data analytics, everything together, and kind of solving the larger business problem. Now, your last part of question was, how do you create impact? I think a lot of the history, and I have worked with most of the US banks as well as European banks, what I've seen is every time a technology comes, the banks or everybody jumps onto it, right? And start using it. Rather than that, if you really identify a business problem and then mix multiple technologies to solve that, I think that's where it's going to be the key. So the banks or the institutes who have done that effectively are really leading this curve. Everybody else is just jumping onto the technology and trying to toy with it, right? Instead, start from a business and then implement technology. That's the way I would look at it.
No, I love the way you articulated, Rishi. I think you took at the entire landscape very well, especially saying, let's not forget it started with, calculators, right? Automation and going to RPA and now, as I call it, IPA. And also your point on problem solving first and technology second. That's something, I also believe in. So great to hear that. I'll now go to the next question. Zubin, come to you.
Yeah.
So we are seeing, that there's a change in customer demand and behavior, right? Fairly obvious. And because of that, customer service needs to evolve.
Absolutely.
And in doing so, right, what is the role of innovation and technology in making CX more efficient and agile? And when we talk about this new age CX, what are the various factors which come into play?
Definitely. So let's start with technology first. Customer impatient. So earlier you used to wait 2 days for opening account. Now they want 30 seconds, 1 day, all theory, but still. So how do you achieve that? So one thing we are going ahead is we are breaking the whole monolithic application to microservices. And we have smaller services, each get deployed independently, they work independently. Another big shift which is happening is what was API first approach. No longer you need a screen to do that. Earlier days, you want to book an FD, you go to a mobile banking, you book FD from there. Here you can do it through a WhatsApp or a SMS or from Google Pay. So what we are doing internally is trying to APify all our microservices so that it is very easy. So, and the time to market reduces. I can just give an API to a fintech, he consumes it and starts working on it. So that's one of the important things. Second thing where I come from is one important you forget is the build and deployment cycle. So improve customer experience. I need to get to market quicker. And for that, we have to shift left is what we call. So that whole pipeline of deployment. So one thing is either we wait for 2 days, downtime, resilience, or we shift left. As the application is running, we deploy. So one of the major shift which I see over here is as soon as the application gets come up, we deploy it. And the customer immediately starts seeing the effect. And that's where, And other place where if you want a really good customer experience, the whole mindset of the organization also has to change. They have to be more agile, less bureaucratic. Otherwise, we'll go in checklist, and in that checklist, we'll miss the bus. So one thing is like make pods, immediately give the empowered pod to take a call and move on, and no need the 10 signatures before you do a deployment. So those are some of the paradigm shifts which I am looking at from a long-term perspective.
No, thank you, Zubin. I think the whole idea of agile deployment comes in because today you can't wait for days and years. Uday, your views on the same question?
Yeah. So I come from the product vendor side, while others are bankers. So kind of really interesting to see this, like where we are kind of, the topic is harnessing the power of automation for operational excellence. So, and this, especially on this question on customer experience, right? And the customer here are both, right? One is the customer's customer, who is kind of a consumers, and right, and another is internal, where the employees are also, right, customers and their experience. And Jasmin talked about that, and others also. Because if we are able to give a better experience to our employees, they will be able to serve better customers, right? Think of a scenario where an insurance agent goes and kind of meets a customer, and he's there to sell. But the customer says, I have purchased some other policy, and I wanted to do address change, but that has not worked. Now the guy is stuck, right? So that's what is basically, there are these different touch points, and if we are able to kind of bring in automation and AI at different stages, it kind of, it changes the game completely, right? And especially if we are able to empower employees. And for example, the DSAs may be calling and asking what's happened, why kind of, what these leads are there and what is happening. And they have to call, and this operational guy is to say, I will call you back after 10 minutes. Right? Instead of that, if we can make it as a self-service for them, right? Left shift kind of things. Or somebody walks in and says that I want to break this FD, how much will I get? Now this is not a call center call or anything like that. The person is sitting in front of you, and how do you kind of provide that experience? And Microsoft Teams is kind of ubiquitous, right? Many companies, right? If they are able to do it through MS Teams, saying that, okay, this is what the query is, and the bot and the AI works at the back end, and RPA, all these connected together, and the response comes back, it's a great experience for the customer, right? So, and so there are these different customer experience and journeys which can basically automation can help in, whether employee joining the organization, HR, right? And before I join on WhatsApp, I get a message, right? This is what we are going to welcome you, and these are the prerequisites you should complete before you join. And the day I join, I get another welcome WhatsApp message. It's not kind of buried into email. These are your accesses. This is your table, chair, and phone, and all of that. And then after 2-3 days, or these are the trainings you are supposed to complete, right? So all those kind of journeys also, we are kind of, whatever I'm talking about is now and here. We are doing that for our customers. These kind of things. Right? And think about insurance, right? Earlier, fire insurance, if I had to get a quote, this is one of our customer, they used to take 5 days to give a quote, right? Because they are enterprise customers, and their customers can wait, sales guy can go for a tea and call back again, and maybe after 2 days respond and all that. Where they wanted to go into is a small and medium-sized business. And if a pharmacy, that guy is not going to wait for 5 days. He has something he read in the newspaper, there was a fire in one of the right shop, and now it's on the top of the mind. Maybe after 2 days he will forget about this. So that's a moment where I should be able to kind of say that, okay, that quote is reached. So what my channel partners, what if they can send just an email saying fire quote? And the bot takes over from there and kind of interacts with that channel partner, asks the required information. As a channel partner, they will forget half of the things to fill it. Again, the bot reminds, is saying that, okay, you need to fill all these things in, and then gets everything. Underwriting it's done, because if it's not a very high value, and the calculator and all that can be there, and RPA can go into a backend system, create a quote, give it back, the check, they send a scanned copy, it kind of reads it, it kind of issues the policy, right? So it is from 5 days to 5 minutes. That kind of a customer experience change can be there, right? And there are many such things which can change really a customer experience to a great extent.
I love the way you explained the last, in instance in insurance, right? 5 days to 5 minutes, and the way you explained, I think that's clearly, what we need to see. Jasmin, your views on the same topic?
Yes, so I'll want to share first the business perspective. Like customer experience, of course, is important for all of us. And I think the way customer experience used to get measured, we used to have those CSAT scores, and now we have all moved to a very higher variant of NPS, which is the Net Promoter Score, right? Now, a Net Promoter Score is almost in line with, the changes that we are seeing in the digital world. The way BFSI has moved towards digital. Like everyone talked about, account getting opened instead of 5 days in 5 minutes. Of course, that journey has also been possible because now we have not just the Aadhaar OTP and the PAN verification, but also the video KYC, which is again a very interesting innovation that has come up, which makes it possible for us to onboard the customer and give him that speed wala experience, so that his first experience with the company itself is obviously when we say the first impression is the best impression. So I think that first customer onboarding experience of course becomes very great, and I think this was our experience when we were building Neox. And I'm sure, I don't know whether you've tried Neox, but if you download it and try to open an account, within 3 minutes you'll be opening the entire account, and the entire journey is like, and this is what customers say, the entire journey is like makhan. So that's what, of course, the expectations have changed. Now the customers are millennials. Now the customers are going to be digital natives. So because the customer expectations are changing on one side, of course, we need technology to be a great enabler in building that entire customer experience journey. And when we talk of the customer experience, when we measure NPS, now NPS is a very, very dynamic CX measurement tool, right? So where we have not just, of course it tells us, so there is a macro question which says, how would you recommend your friend or family to so-and-so bank or so-and-so company, which tells us whether the customer has become your loyal advocate or not. But there is a transactional part of NPS, which is what helps us in process re-engineering, which is what tells us after every transaction, if a customer has gone into net banking and done a fund transfer, how was that experience? What went right? What did not go right? Right? Now, this is just one example. Even if there is an experience of a customer has walked into the branch and he has done a demand draft transaction, how was that transaction? How much time was it taken? How can we make it better, right? So the transactional NPS is so much detail and it throws out so much of data that we need the entire process re-engineering to actually go back and figure out the loopholes and correct it as soon as possible, so that we continuously keep on improving the customer experience at all touch points, whether it is a mobile banking touch point, whether it is a branch or an ATM touch point or whatever. And I think now with the omni-channel experience, customer expect the same level of experience at all the touch points. So I think, yes, as we progress, I think technology is going to be the biggest game changer as far as CX is concerned.
No, thanks, Jasmin. Two dimensions I thought really stood out. One was the fact that you spoke about video, right? It's form factor, right? We moved from text to voice to video now, and increasingly that's making it real time. The other is with the increasingly high digital footprint of customers, right? It's the onus is on firms to leverage that, and therefore ensure that nothing goes untouched. I think that's what is important. Vaibhav, your thoughts on the topic?
So, Dipu, I feel customer experience is the single most important aspect that decides whether or not your product acceptability is going to be by large at scale or not. Because it is the customer experience that defines, that decides, how fast the customer is getting onboarded, how seamlessly the customer is carrying out a transaction, so on and so forth. And before I jump on to giving some examples, because I'll always talk on the business side, let me tell you how it matters. So suppose you are building an app, okay? And when you understand your customer psyche, the type of customer segment you are catered to, and then subsequently the psyche, you realize that this particular customer is going to probably want to see these products, okay? Now your technology has to be so scalable that in the event he ends up not frequently using a product A, but product B, then that product B is something that is the first thing he should see the moment he logs in. Okay, coming from a BFSI financial product standpoint, the moment you log into an app, the first thing that generally you see is, in a banking or a fintech or an NBFC kind of a thing, that, what is your relationship with that particular bank, NBFC, lender, fintech? which is like your balance sheet. So it shows that, this is your total relationship. It is broken into this. These are your credits, these are your debits, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, a lot of this can also be, done in a different manner. If the customer actually is a millennial, then the first thing you would want to say is that, for example, let me give you an example. If I've been using PhonePe for like, since the day we launched it. And I'm so loyal to PhonePe. Somebody asks me to use Google Pay, I'm like, boss, competition hai, main nahi karunga. Till the time we launched that fixed deposit on Google Pay, and we were like, okay, ab thoda sa use kar sakte. I open PhonePe. The only thing that I see in PhonePe is QR code scanner, tick, scan, amount, pay, close. Okay. While 40% of PhonePe sales are actually insurance, the revenue is now on insurance. I've never gone to PhonePe because that's the customer experience that I've gotten used to. So ideally, the app should be such that, for a Vaibhav, the app has to be so intelligent that who has always been doing that, the moment he opens a PhonePe, by default QR scanner should get opened. Okay, because for last 5 years, I've only been doing that. The moment I open PhonePe, QR scanner open, scan, my time will come down. The experience will be amazing. Okay. Let me give you an example of Neox, where Jasmin left. So we launched Neox, it's been a year and a half now, and we reached 1 million customers in 9 months. And some of the features from a customer experience point of view you need to understand, okay? It was targeted at millennials. So millennials typically, Tinder, Bumble users, they are used to right swiping. So one of the features we incorporated from a customer experience point of view was that suppose the 6 of us are, eating and we are sharing a pizza and we pay for the pizza via Neox. 1500 rupees ka bill pay kar diya. So the moment I pay 1500 rupees, it will give me a pop-up. Swipe right to book a mutual fund of 150 rupees, 10% of whatever I spent. It does two things. One is, mera savings ho jata hai. Second, that guilt feeling that itna spend kiya, acha save bhi karo. Then I'm like, wow. Okay. Another feature that was very amazing from a customer experience point of view, if I'm in Neox and I'm seeing my balance, if he comes in, she comes in, then how India is. We have peeping toms everywhere. Even at ATM, we have people looking at it. So you just swipe your hand like this. Right swipe, in front of the camera, your balance goes away. Left swipe, the balance comes again. Okay. So these are a few things that, innovations that can be built in to make the app or your product more intuitive, make it render it in a manner that, your user actually picks it up, that, boss, ye to mere liye bana hai. It's like a customized thing. In India, Dipu, what sells is, either a customized product or the sense that this product has been customized for me. And that is possible only through customer experience. The fastest account we opened was, I think, under 2 minutes. Wow. Under 2 minutes we had opened, like 30, 40 microseconds under 2 minutes when we had opened the fastest account. Now imagine how can you open a savings account in 2 minutes? Okay, average time, as she said, was 3 minutes. But it is possible because of that seamless customer journey. Okay, anybody who is good at, using a phone, tuck, 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 done.
No, I think the way you said, that the customer should feel, ki ye mere liye hai, right? I think,
Can I take 10 more seconds on this topic?
Please.
Yeah. So my take on CX, right? It's of course, I'm a big believer of user experience. And I believe the experience goes somewhere at a subconscious level, right? And especially in banking terms, if you don't trust, you don't do it. Imagine a situation you use HDFC Bank or ICICI Bank every day for doing payments and everything. The moment it starts looking different, you probably will take a back, right? And you will not do that transaction because the trust factor goes out. That's why making it seamless at a subconscious level is a very, very important thing.
In fact, let me add 10 more seconds on that. And now it's becoming more interactive, sorry, Dipu. But this doesn't just happen in banking. Yesterday, in my car, there is a big display panel. My daughter changed that color. Okay, today morning I got into the car, I was like, "Arey, ye kya ho gaya? Mera hi gaadi hai na?" And I saw that, all colors are coming. I am used to that standard smart gray, and I went into setting, changed it. Ab main gaadi chalaunga. So it is into every aspect of our life.
Yeah. Let me come to you, Zubin. And the question is on Web 3.0, right? I think there are a lot of people in the audience as well, who are very keen on knowing about Web 3.0, creating disruption. So what do you think is the usefulness of Web 3.0 in terms of driving customer experience?
Definitely. I think 3.0 is the future in my mind. 2.0 about the data sharing, centralized repository. 3.0 is not decentralization. We don't keep data in one place. We keep it in a centralized place, and that's how it is. So blockchain is the future. It's playing a very key role. Like one experiment which we are thinking is how about KYC? You go to every bank, they ask for the same Aadhaar card, same finger, and the same process continues all the time. Instead of that, maybe you go to one branch, you do your KYC. You go to a different bank, you just give a consent, he pulls the data. So that saves a lot of time. Second place where I see Web 3.0 going is the metaverse space. The whole world is becoming digital. You don't need brick mortar walls to walk into a branch. Imagine this, you have VR and you just walk into virtual reality, you open an account, fast stretch, but maybe this is possible in the future. So, 3.0 is going to make that possible actually. And I think we are investing heavily in that 3.0 architectures in the bank level.
Thank you, Zubin. And I'll come to the last question. We have just 4 minutes left, so I'll request Rishi and Uday to keep it crisp. So this is that classic question, right, which people ask: automation and cost effectiveness. How do you balance the two? So maybe Rishi, you first, and then I'll round it off with Uday.
Sure. I'll quickly. I think the misnomer there is, traditionally we used to look at benefits year on year, right? If I'm investing X this year, am I reaping benefit this year? In terms of automation or AI, it's like invest once and reap every year. That's the story, right? Because let's say I automate a process. Today it is 100,000 transactions. Tomorrow it could be 130, and probably in 3 years it doubles the volume. But your same bot is going to do that, right? So there is no additional investment required. If it was a manual effort, you probably would have to recruit another, maybe a couple of human beings, train them, and so on and so forth. So that's the story. So you always look at it a long term. The second aspect is there are intangible benefits, right? Your speed of processing, 24/7 operations, your productivity, the accuracy, and the cost avoidance. Imagine a situation where by mistake you do a typo in some reg reports and stuff like that. Here, if the bot is trained once, he's going to be accurate. He or she is going to be accurate, and that's the beauty about it. So cost avoidance also is a benefit, is what I would say. As I said in the beginning, right, the cost benefit comes primarily from choosing the right process, and if you can do STP or end-to-end automation, and that's where the maximum benefit comes.
Thanks so much, Rishi. It was really crisp. Yeah, Uday.
So the cost, it has to justify, right? And anytime we go to customers and we say, oh, okay, customer experience and kind of it will improve the things and all that. So that is fine, right? So that's one aspect. But tell me about how much I'm going to kind of save, right? An operational efficiency point of view. So I think the technology like hyper-automation, RPA, it is the kind of you pay from your savings, right? It's kind of from day one. And things like we talk about is, let's say you're spending $10 per ticket or $20 to solve IT tickets. Can you get a pricing such a way that it's kind of $3 per ticket, right? So it's kind of no-brainer. It's kind of you're putting the money in your pocket. So that is possible with these technologies. The ROI models are very straight, and it's possible to kind of give that kind of a report to management and kind of get the buying. But there are other aspects, right? Is that compliances, right? And yesterday only one of our customers called, and they are kind of a 200,000 people company, and they said that accidentally, we have transferred money to our employees because the timesheets are not calculated correctly, and millions of dollars is what are gone into that. And then we want to kind of put this is a burning thing, and we want to fix this, right? And it is possible, right? For us, is like maybe it's a couple of days, and something like this can be done with Excel and kind of data and all that. It's possible to do those kind of things. Another same customer saying that they acquired a company, and somehow there was a data breach. And in data breach, there is a PII information, there is health-related information, and things like that. Can we solve this problem? We've not seen this problem earlier. Right? It will involve OCR, it will involve regular expressions, and you can kind of use multiple, because it's a hyper-automation, you can use combination of things and solve these kind of problems, right? So these aspects are not only about here, it is more about your bottom line getting impacted, right? It's not only about operational cost or your reputation or your regulatory compliance requirements are there. So the costs are definitely, it's possible to kind of save, but it is, for example, RBI has a guideline, or IRDA is about Aadhaar masking, right? Everyone is sitting on that problem. At a board level, you have to kind of report to the board saying that, okay, are we compliant or not, right? And if we are trying to do this manually, we have seen our customers where they are struggling. Currently, for some of the mid-sized companies I'm talking about, even for them, we do around 150,000 Aadhaar marks per day. So that means there is a backlog and there is a current load. So those kind of things, doing it humanly is not possible. Putting so many people and doing those kind of things. So there is a pressure in terms of time, and cost is definitely justification, but there are other things where you can look at it for bringing these kind of solutions.
Thank you. We just 5 seconds over time. So thank you all for sharing your views so passionately, yet managing to be just about within time. If the audience has any quick question, we'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise, we can move on to the next set of programs. Any questions? Any brave soul wanting to ask something? Yeah, please. Maybe you can just state your name and if there any particular panelist, it's directed at.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I mean, it was really nice listening to different thoughts, and it's really insightful. You all talked about...
Your name, please?
Sorry,
Yeah.
my name is Rahul. I'm from Automation Edge here.
Okay.
Right.
So your question is to him or anybody else, somebody else?
It is for bankers,
Okay.
especially. We all talked about, or you guys all talked about, the benefits or the good things about automation, right, which is coming. But then, what are the challenges, right? Not in terms of only technology, but in terms of culture, or if there is anything, right, and how that can be solved while adopting automation in especially banking industry.
So over to both of you. Anybody wants to take it?
Yes. So I'll take that because, see, the challenges, of course, there are. It is a cultural shift, to be very honest, and that is the biggest challenge because which cannot be solved through technology pure, right? That's one. Second thing is a lot of processes are not standardized. So I have seen it in multiple banks where the process has like 100 variants to it because every person does things differently. So standardizing processes as well as documenting, and that's where the newer tools of automated process discovery are kind of helping so that they're discovering the process automatically and standardizing it, giving you optimized way of doing things. So that's another challenge. Third is, as I said, the resistance, right? And that me and Uday were discussing just before the session. It's about how do you give a citizen development? Can you teach this technology? And I think some of you are doing it easy for the business ops to adopt this technology. So that if they know the process, because ultimately automation is a marriage between operational knowledge versus technology, right? If the person who knows operations learns a bit of a technology, then it's very fast track. And I think that will definitely solve.
Any other question? Okay. Thank you, everyone. And there is? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, just state your name and, there's somebody you want to ask it to.
Hello? Yeah. Okay. My question was about the customer experience and also the initial question that was discussed about artificial intelligence. Okay. So one of the panelists mentioned that there are a lot of data points that you capture which are used for either triggering certain events that the relationship manager or someone can use it, or even if you want to use it for customizing the experience for any customers. Okay, so where do you draw the line between either the amount of data that you collect and data privacy? Secondly, even in customer experience, where is the balance between the amount of customization that you're giving and where it becomes invasive to the customer? For example, even now, in the offline world, you have a lot of calls that you're getting. Do you want a personal loan? Do you want a credit card? Things like that. So where do you draw the line between that?
My friend, what's your name?
Okay, Santosh Nair. I'm from the insurance industry.
So Santosh, good question. Data privacy is a very, very, underplayed aspect in India, let me call it. Globally, it's a very important aspect. And India, it is now picking up. But having said that, what happens is, our regulator is extremely strong, okay? Any financial service that gets offered to any customer in the country, either through a fintech, through a regulated entity, SEBI or RBI regulated, or through an NBFC and so on, it is extremely in a very tightly controlled manner. Which means that if I am even taking a very small ounce of data information from you, then I have to take your explicit consent for that same. And if you look at, the apps or the service providers that are operating in India, our agreements, terms and conditions are not those Microsoft kind of agreements where you just scroll, I agree. No, it's not. There are very, RBI says there are very explicit terms that you have to highlight. So if I'm going to scrub your SMS, for example, okay, let's take the example of, I don't want to name it, but the credit card, you can pay your credit card bills through that app, They started this practice in India. Now it's become, 6x unicorn, but on the way to become a decacron. But RBI took cognizance of the fact and clearly brought in the regulation where there is an explicit consent that has to be taken. So as far as data privacy is concerned, our regulator has very, very clearly governed it, and you can clearly say that I don't want to give certain rights. Number one. What was the second aspect of your question?
The second is?
So, see, when it comes to drawing the line, what you need to understand is, and I spoke, in the customer experience part when I was speaking, if the app is intelligent enough to pick up your behavior and adapt as per your behavior, then it is from a convenience perspective, okay? Whether the app becomes intrusive or not is a function of, again, it's related to, how many data points, touch points am I, creating, and it comes down to consent at the end of the day. I become intrusive if I'm asking you so many questions, if I'm trying to get into so many of your details that you are like, at some point in time, you will say, mujhe ye use nahi karna hai. Okay, that is up to the user. And India being the market, India is where, while the regulator is extremely tight, the awareness of data privacy, the awareness of data security, so on and so forth, within the larger commune is slightly, at a mediocre or a not that great as Western counterparts level. I think we will still have to, do a lot of sensitization, do a lot of, capacity building around that. Then eventually we'll come to that all. But till that time, you will have to, as a user, decide that if you think that a certain app is being more intrusive, then as a user, you have to stop over there and you have to, file a complaint.
But Santosh, thank you. I think that was a really good question. Thanks to both of you for asking questions. Anybody else? Yeah, okay. Again, just please state your name and, if there's any particular panelist, whom you would want to answer your question.
I got it. Thank you. My name is Abhijit. I think this question is for Rishikesh, as well as for Jasmin. Actually, I'll start with Jasmin. You mentioned when you launched Neox, you garnered 10 lakh users in a very short space of time. Now, for a digital native application which is attracting digital natives, you reach that scale and you're able to build resiliency into that application from the get-go. But what about for HSBC, for example, with traditional applications that are starting to, and you're morphing them to become more resilient and scalable for the new generation so that they adopt those services? What are some of the friction points in being able to bring the old to the new, and are you just starting fresh, and that may not be the right approach either? So keen to understand.
Yeah, and I think there's something in between, which is a hybrid thing wherein, an example of 811, yeah? So it is, I think, an apt example which which bridges the gap between a Neox example that you just shared and an HSBC app. Because Kotak has its own mobile banking app, right? And of course, all the customers can go on the app, can do all the servicing, all the transactions on the app. At the same time, Kotak also has an 811, which is addressing the millennials, the digital natives, which is a bank within a bank concept. So it is actually created a challenger bank within the own bank, and it is competing with the Kotak branches itself. And the scale at which Kotak 811 is also growing, I think it's the same scale, and I think that's the power of digital. You grow 10x when you go digital. So that's something that we have seen, and I think these hybrid models are coming up, wherein we have small finance banks and the old private banks and the nationalized banks, and I think the payment banks are still trying to survive. But I think neobanks are also coming up, and then there are neobanks within the banks. So I think the competition is out in the open for all the players, whether they are fintech players or whether they are banks. The competition is out open for all. And I think that's the best for the customer. And Rishikesh, you would want to add something.
Thank you,
You
Jasmin.
put it very nicely. It's, I think the short answer is customer wins. Okay, whichever way it is, whether you go to Lakshmi or to the Kotak Bank or 811, right? It is the customer, whoever serves the customer base. And there are multiple strategies. To answer your question, I think she was very right. There are multiple channels that you expose to the customer based on the customer segmentation, right? Some of the people, let's say our grandparents still prefer to go to SBIs of the world and get their passbook updated, right? And I'm sure you have never gone to bank to update your passbook. So that's the difference. It's basically looking at this different segmentation.
Thank you. Any other question? Okay. I think 3 questions, really, made us feel good. But that means the audience was interested. So thank you all. Thanks to the audience for listening and participating. And thank you to the panelists as well, for sharing their views with so much of, generosity. Thank you all.